We got to talk about these charts. We're getting a little bit of dumpage right now. Is it a setup for something more to the upside? Is there a major shakeout, both down and up or up then down, that we need to be paying attention to so that we can take advantage of what's happening in this market? We're about to get going right now. We are live on Twitter and we are live here on YouTube. Big shout out to everybody that is tuned in. Appreciate each and every one of you that is here on a daily basis. We're about to get into it. So as you are tuning in, make sure you share this space. If you're on Twitter, share this with your friends and family. Retweet this. And by the way, if we get up to 15 retweets, I do have an Arculus that I will be giving away. We will draw somebody for that. And we're about to get into it right now. So everybody hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, ding the bell. Get ready to dive into these charts. We got the fam here. We got to talk about what's going on because volatility is a blessing if you know how to play it. Otherwise, you're going to get trapped. So let's go. What's up, everybody? Good morning, good afternoon, good night. We are getting some dumpage right now, diving into the market. We can see, holy moly, we got this massive sort of neckline right here that we just fell through. Is this a signal that we are going to have a bit more dumpage that's going to target all the way down here into the $54,300 level? Are we going lower? Well, we are going to discuss that. We're going to be talking about what's going on in this altcoin market because we're also seeing the others chart showing a bit of a breakdown. Let's look at the total three, which is everything minus Bitcoin and Ethereum. Also, of course, having a bit of a dump in this. The others chart, just so you know, is everything outside of the top 10. We have been discussing this for quite some time here on the BitLab stream. So while you are tuned in, while you're here, make sure if you like this kind of crypto content, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button and ding the bell. My name is Kellam here with BitLab Academy, here with you, trying to bring you meaningful tools, content, resources, charts, signals, setups, education, so you don't step into the same pitfalls and errors that I made early on. And I've been in this market for years, so shout out to everybody that is tuned in. We've already got 225 people here in the room between Twitter and YouTube, so shout out to everybody that is here. We're going to be diving into what's going on because what is happening right now, look at this. We lost that $2 trillion mark. Shout out to everybody if you're taking advantage of the volatility here on the trader side. If you are an investor, then are you taking, I'm curious right now, comment in the live chat there on Twitter or comment down below that post or comment here in the live chat here on YouTube. Are you taking advantage of this or are you just sitting on your hands? There's not a right answer. It's all going to depend on what your risk exposure, what your risk tolerance is, and also what your plans are in this market. We're coming into some fear right now, but we got some bigger things at play that we've got to discuss. So everybody, as you're tuned in here, I do want to shout out. Let me actually pull it up, x.com. If you're, I just retweeted it on BitLab Academy page as well. But if you retweet this post right here, this is a live stream that's happening at the same time there on Twitter. Retweeting this, if we get up to over 15 retweets today by the end of this stream, we will be giving away an Arculus, $100 value there. And it's my favorite crypto cold storage solution. And it's more important than ever to consider this right now, because when you consider when bad things happen in the market, when exchanges have issues, when there's liquidity crisis, you start to see who's swimming naked. So that's why it's important to protect your crypto and protect your future. Head over to getarculus.com, use code LAB10 to get 10% off your Arculus. It's my favorite, and I still feel like one of the number one crypto cold storage solutions that is out there. So make sure you head over to getarculus.com and use code LAB10 when you sign up there. Now, we're talking about what's going on here. Let's go ahead and update this. Let's look at it just visually with the bubbles. We're seeing some pretty, some spillage here, some dumpage on the market. Bitcoin's down about minus 1.7, but look at this. We got, these sort of meme style coins down 4.5%, down 3.4%, Floki down 2.3%. But even across the broader market, interestingly, we see Uniswap still sitting relatively flat despite that enforcement action that they had brought on them yesterday. We also see Stacks down 1.7, Near down 2%. Are we starting to see these levels that we want in order to start taking some more aggressive stances on longs? Or is there calls for some bigger moves to the downside? Right now, everybody, right now, we're sitting in a situation where we have such incredible macro bullishness that I think it is clouding people's vision of what's happening in these charts. Clouding people's visions about what they should be doing in terms of the actions they should be taking. Even if you are buying, even if you are taking longs, it's not necessarily a right or wrong thing right now. It's just a matter of what time frame are you looking at when you're taking those positions, and are you setting up your risk management on those so you can exit or pivot your directionality if you're actively trading, because we are still in this consolidation range that we've been in for quite some time, and things are leaning a bit uncertain right now. Does that mean it's over for the market? No, it means that this emotional trigger system that these markets are designed by, basically, we have the narrative of bulls and bears. And the question is, how can you navigate capturing those pivot points when the bulls flip bearish and when the bears flip bullish? And when is there going to be a continuation one direction or another? It is as frustrating as it can be right now when we're looking at these charts. So let me go ahead and pull this back up. When we're looking at these charts and we see, let's go out to the 8-hour, double click here. We're still in this very sort of, it used to be midterm, but it's starting to turn into a macro consolidation. I mean, all the way back here. I mean, from this point back here at the top, if we measure that out to where we're at today, that's almost 180 days of price action just whipsawing around and absolutely eating people's, just eating their lunch for breakfast. And what does that mean? We're seeing the volatility of the swings from the upside to the downside to the upside, expanding as this is going. In this case, reverse came all the way down here, right to this. Look at this, 3 different trend lines, a resistance level here. This is an ETF price action speculative pump up into this, the sell-off. And this zone right here, $49,000, is, look at this juncture of this descending support line. We have this horizontal resistance line now turn support. And then, of course, this more macro trend line that also intersected right here, which is also the rejection points right here, which if we zoom back out, is also the support here, is also support over here, all the way back here into January 2021. Now, does that mean that we're not going to have an opportunity to break below that? No, on the contrary, it's a level we need to pay attention to, because if we do break below this point, it is very likely going to spell a lot of liquidations in this market. But let's go ahead and go through some of the things we want to look at. Then we'll come back. We're going to look at Bitcoin. We're going to look at Ethereum. We're going to look at Avalanche. We're going to look at Cardano. We're going to look at Solana. So we got to get the context of the situation, though. So I do want to just shout out this. This is August 21st, 2024. So not too long ago, a few weeks ago, but I said bull run for Bitcoin is over. Well, it is for anybody that capitulates before the bull rockets are lit. And what we were talking about here is, look at this. I was outlining that $55,000 was essentially where the fair value was. And what's the price right now? Look at that, 56. What did we just dip into? The price action literally a few minutes ago. If we look at this candle right here, I'm going to move this over. If I put my mouse over this candle, quick little tip for you here. These numbers up here aren't just random numbers. OHLC, open, high, low, close. That's the open of the candle, the high of the candle, the low of that specific, whatever candle your mouse is over. You see how this is changing? So let's put it over this candle. What is the low? 55,849 is the low we just had. And only a couple days ago, we just had right here, Wednesday, that's actually yesterday, we can see that the low there was 55,617. So we're really exploring if the bulls want to defend this area. But when we look back at the economic context of everything, the fact that you just got some weak job numbers. Now, on the one hand, that's great if we're wanting Fed cuts. On the other hand, that also suggests forward-looking speculation that the economy is weakening because fewer people are getting jobs. The less money in the near-term future is going to be spent. More pressure on that savings that people don't have any longer. More debt because people are going to need to take on debt because they don't have work. And we're starting to see some pressures It's going to be very interesting to see what Jerome Powell does with the FOMC meeting on the 17th and 18th on what that Fed decision is going to be. And most importantly, how the market responds in the days after, and then a continuation of support if there's a move one direction or the other. So when we come back over and look at this and we see fair value is roughly, this was a couple weeks ago at 55,000, and we just moved down to it. Is anything really out of context right now? Is it really, oh my God, things are breaking? Well, currently we're still sitting. We see right here testing that just like we did back here in 2016, just like once we fell out of this with the global economic shutdown, riding this line of support post-halving before we had that breakout. Now, it's very hard to determine when this breakout's going to happen because we have so many dates that are lining up that are all in somewhat a choppy confluence with each other over the next month and a half, 2 months. And that is the FOMC meeting. That's also that big date in November that everybody's waiting on to see what direction administration is going to go. And in addition to all this, we still have a little bit of carryover worry regarding what's going on with the Japanese yen carry trade. If there's going to be any more unwinding of that, in addition to these, these signals on the economy, which we want to feel are bullish because the S&P 500 has been pumping its face off. But we're starting to see some forecasted potential bearishness for economic activity. Sorry, I got the hiccups again. Now, looking at this, just a reminder, I shared this April 19th. 40 days here was the 2013 very early market cycle, but the last two cycles, roughly 150 to 170 days. And I'd said this April 19th, don't get chopped out before blast off. Well, what happened after I posted this on April 19th? Well, let's go ahead and look at the chart. April 19th, let's double click there. Where are we at? Boom. April 19th is this date right here. So what happened? Chop up, chop down, chop all the way up, chop down, chop up, even further down. I was highlighting the need for patience back here on April 19th. And yet, even myself, sometimes we get a little too bullish, a little too early. Shout out, by the way, to Alexandra G, the #1 mod in the space. And I don't think of her as a mod. She's a member of the BitLab family. She keeps this community going. She does all the time codes on the videos, which is, she doesn't even know it. It's so incredibly helpful to me when we're doing different things on the back end here to track certain things and also helping everybody else. And also the SEO on the videos, having those things time coded. So I appreciate you, Alexander G. Shout out to you. In fact, Alexander G, I'm going to reach out to you. I'm going to send an Arculus your way just as a thank you for all the help that you've given over the last year and a half, really. Big love to you. Now, continuing on here, I just want to point out, similarly to that time period we talked about, I know I showed this the other day, but we got to get it through our heads. We've got this period of time right here, this period of time, this period of time. This is all the price activity within the market cycle post-halving. And at this juncture is roughly when you really start to build that basis for that next parabolic uptrend. The question right now remains, and I was on stream earlier today. I woke up and saw Crypto Face was streaming. I hopped in there and he invited me on. So I was talking with him on there. And there is some pretty remarkable bearishness. There's some bearish context. If you turn off your bias about things having to go up, there is a potential setup that could absolutely wreck this market. Absolutely. Especially considering the framework of how this structure is right now. Of course, there are some incredibly bullish signals. In fact, there's so many bullish signals on the market right now in terms of the macro picture with institutions and corporations and big money. But at the same time, that also screams, are institutions and corporations and big money ready to let this market run away? Because we don't have this huge number of retail participants flooding into the market with this, sort of FOMO buy pressure. In fact, as I outlined yesterday, the SOPR on-chain metric, this spent output profit ratio, is actually indicating that we're entering a potential little bearish window right now because the profits are basically under that 365, that 1 year moving average, which we saw similar to when the price action was when we're looking at the 2019 cycle here. When this broke down, we went into that same setup that we're just entering right now. that actually marked a little bit of a bearish continuation for a period of time. Now, one would ask, we're just after the halving, so we must go up from here. Remember, there is no must in any market. These markets are dynamic. They are tied to the global sort of risk, where risk is being placed in global markets and financial markets with people taking on risk or protecting themselves. Now, everybody wants to argue that Bitcoin in some ways, it's still I don't want to say a hypothetical, but it's still an aspiration. Bitcoin is the hedge against everything, but it's still trading like risk markets, especially as the more and more Wall Street and basically professional traders and institutions get involved. I still think we have a window where this is going to be very, very highly tied to risk. On the one hand, very bullish when we're looking at this, should go up next, should go up next, should go up next. But even if this does, and I still think, let me make this clear, I still think it's more likely that we will get that bullish continuation. But this is a macro chart we're looking at. And considering that this is a macro chart, before we go up or in the time frame of the next 60 days or so, that does not mitigate, that does not change the fact that we may get a move that comes all the way down here, tests this range in the $42,000 to $47,000 region. That would not even be visible. Looking at this chart, it would still look the same way. But while we're zoomed in, we think that it's determining the entire outlook of the market because we get a couple $1,000 move in one direction or another. We got a nice number of people in here today, 423 people between Twitter and YouTube. Shout out to everybody that is here. I appreciate you being here, but we got some more charts we're going to go through. And I just want to, it's actually some stories too, but this is an article here from Gideon Wolf. And he's talking about, what's going on, the context for Bitcoin investors. Remember, we got big money coming in. They're looking at broader things, not just their hope in Bitcoin. So we are seeing a huge number of stable coins being printed. There's such a massive dry powder keg. It's like $3.5 billion or something like that. But on the same time, we're seeing a short-term strain. We're seeing a strain on short-term holders right now. And this is kind of setting up, some implications for some potential downward price action. We can see right here, a recent report by Glassnode highlights the average new Bitcoin investor is currently facing unrealized losses. This situation raises concerns about potential sell-side pressure until the spot price reclaims a short-term holder cost basis of $62,400. There is an expectation for further market weakness. So we need to understand this context is there. Even though I'm so macro bullish, there's a lot of indications in the near term, especially with the FOMC meeting coming up in a couple weeks. The following price action after that, the implications of having rate cuts and having seen many instances of those rate cuts happen because there's something breaking. So they're trying to prevent further breakage. We've seen downward price action. We've seen an impulse afterwards because, there's sort of a trap being set and a malaligned assessment of what that data means, and then a very sharp fall after. So that is something that we need to pay attention to. This is also an article I put out earlier this morning. There's actually a video attached with this. It's about 10 minutes, and I'll post this here in the live chat. You can go watch this video. This is just exclusive here on the street where I'm a contributor as well, Roundtable. But I'm talking about all these things: the FOMC meeting, what's going on with the interest rates, what's happening in the near term, happening with the selection process there in November, the fact that this bullishness that we're seeing right now with the quarter one and quarter two, the appetite for Bitcoin spot ETFs. We are setting up a very interesting sort of predicament about what is going on in the market right now, and there is indication that things are ripe for a potential washout in both directions. That's what this green line is. Say we get a little bit of rounding here, even if we dip down into this, but a rounding and then into the end of the month, because of those rate cuts, we get a massive spike up into this region here, the 66,000 region. And I don't like that number on the right, 66,628. There's a lot of sixes there, potentially even higher. But then having that washout, that sort of final washout, is a very real potential as we're looking at the data here. So let's continue on here and realize that this is something else we're watching. The dollar index, the strength of the dollar. It's very tied to where risk is in the market. If risk is going into the market, this tends to fall. If risk is coming out of the market, basically people are moving themselves out of investments or into dollar out of investments, for instance. We can see that this is very heavily, very almost directly tied to falling of the dollar. Look at this. Rise in the parabolic uptrend on Bitcoin. Falling of the dollar, rise in the parabolic uptrend on Bitcoin. Are we going to get, again, this is a speculation. Every pattern that you see in crypto or any asset you're trading, whether it's a bull flag, a bear flag, in this case, an inverse correlation or a negative correlation with the dollar, those setups are setups until they are confirmed. So we need to be patient right now, because while this does signify that if we do drop from here, this would actually be very bullish for Bitcoin, but we have not yet dropped. In fact, we see 1, 2, 3, 4. We're on our 5th sort of tap here on this lower support of this basically sideways trading range on the dollar, the strength of the dollar. If and when we do start to break down and get a little bit of a, sort of retrace confirmation and then continuation, then we can start to see this. But I do think there's going to be some time yet before we get that full signal. So on the macro, this is great, but we're not yet breaking out of this that signals that is, triggering that next move to the upside. But then again, on the bullish side, this is why investing and trading, as much as if you won one trade or two trades, or you thought you learned an indicator, or I pulled this different data right now, because of where we're at in this macro bullish structure on Bitcoin, but sort of this looming economic uncertainty, and if and when they're going to turn the money printers back on, which is terrible for the dollar, but incredible for risk assets. We're trying to contend with all this data to make the best decisions. And on the macro outlook, it's only getting stronger. However, for Bitcoin, I should say, the near term does show signs of a large washout before the next major move and bullish continuation. Act accordingly. So macro, look at this. Companies have grown their Bitcoin holdings by 587% over the past 4 years. This is a massive growth in those large institutional and corporate players, taking on larger positions. And I do think this will only grow over time. But as it stands right now, this does not signal a 4-hour chart having a breakout. This signals, when we're looking at the 2-week and the monthly chart, that we're setting up some sort of bullish pressure to sustain things into the future. So while this is macro incredible, we have to take a look at those smaller time frame targets. Now, continuing on, make sure you're also, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you're, and on Twitter, make sure you're following the BitLab Academy Twitter page here at Academy BitLab. And of course, make sure you're following the correct Kellam, Kelly, Kellam. Always sharing content on here on a daily basis. So looking at what's going on further, I just want to point out the correlation between S&P 500 and Bitcoin. This is a little bit concerning. Now, why is this concerning? This felt great because we had the S&P 500 pulling up while Bitcoin was consolidating at previous all-time highs. But the fact that we've dropped, pushed back up, and now we're sort of struggling to get back over this previous high, this may end up being a double top. We don't know yet. I do think it's more likely than not, because of the strength of this trend, that this will have a bit of a breakout. The question is, will this be a breakout above this with continuation, or will this be a bit of a bull trap up here? Because the fact that this was pushing up, S&P 500, and Bitcoin was relatively flat, if not somewhat bearish trend in terms of slightly trending to the downside. If this fails to push up and starts to break down, think about it. This was pushing up, buoying this a little bit, meaning kind of supporting this, not falling too low because of that risk narrative that's within the global markets, within this, looking at the S&P 500 as an analog. If this does drop and we're seeing lack of buyers just generally in the market, then much more indication that this will likely have a bit further of a pullback. And it's not the end of the world. At the end of the day, if we are prepared for it, coming down, this is why I have the up and the down on here because, yes, it could go either way. We're trying to figure out the probabilities. I'm watching for a potential pullback into this 52 zone, which from where we're at right now, let's go to the 4-hour chart or 2-hour chart. From where we're at right now, the price action from there down to here, it's another 7%. It's not a huge washout. The sort of short to midterm fear that starts to spark is when we start dropping into test this multi-year rising trend line, which this already bounced on. If we lose this zone, I don't think this horizontal level at where this wick went to, there's such little volume traded there. I don't think if we lose this level that we're just going to bounce at this and continue up. I think if we lose this $51,000 level, that we're likely going to test the bottom side of this larger range, that we've been in since the middle of March back here. Now, I do think at this point, this is when he starts looking for a really true sort of like this whipsaw sort of reversal to the upside, but it's going to depend and it's going to develop over time, looking at the market dynamics, what's going on with the broader markets, not just Bitcoin, following the FOMC meeting, what's going on in the polls. Unfortunately, that's going to have some sort of spark in terms of what people's hope or fears about where regulation is going to be in the crypto market. In addition to what's happening with that global liquidity cycle. Is it a little bit of a fake out now that we're breaking above previous all-time highs on global liquidity? Or is that going to are we going to start to see those money printers turning on? Now, continuing on here, I do want to point this out. We've been talking about this for some time. The capital flow here. The capital flow here is suggesting a couple things, and it's not a guarantee. But when we look at 2017, we had this large wave of money coming out of the market on the capital flow. And once we broke back above this with conviction, this massive impulse up, boom, right in here. Once we pulled back, we only dipped into the red, pushed back up, dipped into the red, pushed back up. Now we got, a relative high here on the capital flow. Dip back in. And this was really post-halving. And look at this. We had these oscillations, large impact or large impulse up, come back, scare people till they start committing, pulling money out. Larger impact up, impulse up, come all the way back to fear people out, thinking that tops in, and then one more large impact impulse up, back to zero, and then that last large impulse up until this was the top, and then we get this large. See this difference here in this negative flow on capital. Now, when we look at 2019, the difference here is we had this impulse up. And then we had a bit of a wave to the downside here. And this also had that economic crisis. But geopolitically right now, it's hard to figure the speculation about what will or won't be allowed in terms of people's ability to go to those boxes to put in their idea about who they want to run in the administration. I'm only censoring myself so YouTube doesn't demonetize me because I'm talking about things we should all be able to talk about. But where we're sitting right now, we're on the cusp of potentially either having a move like this, because you see this large wave to the downside has come up. So large wave to the downside, come up and tapped. Well, okay, large wave to the downside came up and tapped, but then expanded bearish. So we're waiting to see everything with all this data with the jobs numbers, non-farm payroll, the jolts, with all these things that none of us paid attention to years ago. But now we're like, okay, CPI and API and DXY U.S. We're trying to figure out what's going on. Are we going to go into a deeper recession? Are these job numbers forecasting something bigger at play? And if so, are the world governments going to start that money printing like we've seen, especially with the People's Bank of China, the PBOC, showing that liquidity might be coming up in the near future. When we look at this on the global liquidity, let's click it 7 times so it works. But see, we are breaking past previous all-time high. And when you outline where we're at in the cycle, when that liquidity is jumping up, it front ran this move to the upside. Okay, boom. We had a bit of a sell-off. We also had a little bit of a pullback on global liquidity. But then this point right here is when global liquidity turned back on. And look, boom. So this is kind of the driver of what the risk narrative is going to be in the next 6 months. Nay, the next year and a half. The question is, what's going to happen, especially with inflation being such a hot topic over the last 4 years. I do think there's a little bit of reluctance, even though it has to happen with us, just our ability to service our debt. They're going to need to turn on money printers. But the question is, are they going to be doing it, what we call stealth QE, stealth quantitative easing, where they're doing things in the reverse repo market and injecting liquidity in these sort of other ways where they're not printing, but they're adding liquidity? Now you're just doing it in ways, now that everybody has more data, you're trying to figure out ways that people don't all have their eyes on. But either way, I do think we're going to see some liquidity injection. Now, looking at the liquidity on the market from those derivatives traders, and shout out to everybody that is in here, 488 people. Thank you for all the likes, the subs, dinging those bells, getting those notifications on, whether you're on Twitter or on YouTube. And again, where are we at right now? Let's see. Have we already passed the 15 mark? If we pass 15, we are going to be giving away another Arculus wallet. Let's see where we're at. We're at 8. So head over there, retweet, share it with your friends and family. Got 284 watching there on Twitter. So shout out to everybody there as well. Thank you guys for tuning in. And again, if this is your first time here, I'm here on a daily basis. My name is Kellam here at BitLab Academy. I just want to make sure that you have meaningful tools so you can navigate this market. And again, I want a community where we are here to grow together, to learn together. None of this troll nonsense that's out there on the internet. If you don't agree with something I'm saying, I welcome it, but provide your context. Don't just, that's wrong. No, we are here to grow together and not be jackasses. So let's do that. Let's grow our portfolios together and make sure that we can navigate this market. So coming back over to this chart here, Bitcoin liquidation map. Let's actually come over here to the weekly. I just want to point this out again. We're getting all this liquidity up here from people trying to short, and it just pushes up into there, closes those people out, and then forces basically this, basically now we're actually short after it clears that liquidity, and then gets people committed short. And look at all this liquidity down here. This is liquidity from people trying to go long. And then what happens? Boom, let's flush those suckers out a little bit sideways, no real clear direction. Everybody's, they're getting just, people are tired of getting chopped up. But then yet again, pushes up, pushes down. If we get down here on the, let's say the 3-day chart, we have liquidity on both sides here. We pushed up, created some liquidity, couldn't quite capture it. But that means now we have a little bit of a magnet above us. But currently right now, there's just a little bit of weakness and uncertainty. And the longer the bulls have the inability to take something out right now, especially with the looming uncertainty dates that we've already discussed, the bears start to garner strength. So we may see that move. We still have this liquidity pocket directly below us here. If we look at this on the 24-hour chart, let's look at this. I mean, see, look at this, pushing down, clearing this liquidity. We do have a little bit of a hot zone up here at 57,600. But I mean, this is looking a bit like a bear flag. We're seeing some weakness in these markets. And so I'm not, if this does drop all the way down to here, we know the macro bullishness, and you might just have to wait longer than you thought you had to wait. And the question is, are you going to capitulate only to have it reverse? Or are you going to identify opportunities to take advantage of as the market presents themselves? Now, coming back to a couple of these other assets we want to talk about, let me just make sure I didn't miss any super chats or members. And by the way, all of you out there that are BitLab members, I see you. I appreciate you. I see a lot of you got your beakers filling up. The longer you remember, the beaker fills up next to your name and also starts to change colors. I think Alexander G has the oldest, the most advanced beaker on her name. So shout out. She's got that full blue. So Sawtooth Hiker. So shout out to everybody. When you guys do join memberships or do gifted memberships, so on and so forth, it really, I just want to let you know, it really does help support the channel, because we are trying to bring on a couple more people here in the Academy and in Signals Lab, so we could provide more content, so we could provide more services. So, I'm going to Singapore in 2 weeks. You guys do not understand how expensive that is. And it's all to gather information and meet other content, not only content creators, but other people within this space that are, different projects and different creators, developers, so I can bring more content and bring more alpha to you all. So I appreciate each and every one of you that does, whether you're super chatting, you're a member on bitlabacademy.com over there with all of our great content and professional traders and basically support system and charts and education. We have a whole crypto education academy there with 120 lessons. Or if you are joining signing up for free over at CoinW and getting in our Signals Lab group, where we're going to have education, but it's a little bit smaller. It's not as in-depth on BitLab, but we also have Signals and so much going on there. That link is pinned to the top of the live chat, and it is also directly, I'm going to copy paste this in the Twitter page too, so you guys can see that link as well. If you come over to the YouTube page, just want to highlight this. If you come over to the YouTube page, you can see that link right here, Free Traders Group. Boom, click right there to join. I'm going to go to this live chat that I did on my page. Where is it at? Just give me 1 second. Bear with me. Bear with me. Run quick, see. I'll do it right here, actually. Boom. Right here. There's the link. Join us there. We're doing $250, 4 people get $250 trading bonus that they can trade with, signing up, depositing $100. When you do sign up, when you click on that link, I should say, it takes you over to this page. Where's my mouse? Takes you over to this page right here in Telegram, this access to Signals Lab. There's a link right there to sign up with CoinW. Then once you find your UID, it shows you how to find it right here. You just type in this right here, /verify space your number. It will give you the link to join. It will bring you into the Signals Lab, where we've been having just nonstop solid trades in here. In fact, we also have a $2,000 to $10,000 trading challenge right now amongst the various traders that we are all trading in here. And it, follow along, because we are trying to give you every signal possible. And again, none of this is financial advice. It is all strategy advice, showing you exactly what we're doing, where we're doing it, why we're doing it, so we can make money in this. I just want to make sure you guys stay on the right side of the trend, and make sure you're not putting your entire portfolio on there. Put whatever you can, whatever you feel safe with, but a small allocation of your portfolio that you want to trade with and take advantage of. Now, getting back in, we got to talk about some of this altcoins drama going on right now, because there's some drama in the LBC, right? We got to talk about what's going on, because there is, we're sitting right on a shelf here with the others chart, which is all those altcoins everybody's holding on to that they want to get that high risk reward. But it's not just reward, it is high risk. The smaller the market cap, the farther it will fall. So when we see this right here, a bit of a, bearish structure knocking on this basically door right here, that if we fall through, which we're already in process of, we do have an opportunity, bearish opportunity for these altcoins to have a pretty significant drop from where they're at right now. You wonder, but they've already dropped. How can they drop further? Well, let's go ahead and take a look. Let's go to the BLX. Let's look at, for instance, let's look at Aerodrome, for instance. And I love Aerodrome. Smaller play though, right? So, let's say it has a 30% drop from there. That could be a move all the way down here to 35 cents. And remember, not so long ago, it was up here. I can't even see it. It was up here at $2.44. And if you were excited here, then can you imagine if you had to move all the way down to 35 cents? Let's see what that measurement is. That is within a macro bull trend, that is about a 85% drop from its all-time high. Things got very excited. We look at things like, even Solana, which I think Solana is a great project as well. We're kind of sitting on the shelf right here of this previous range top. If this does lose itself, I don't, it's not like, it's not like because there's so many, it's not like because there's so many people bullish on this can't have a pretty significant pullback. Even from here to the bottom side of this range, come on, from here to the bottom side of this range, that's a 20, almost 18, 17% pullback. If it loses that range coming down, basically to this next low, that's 34%. If it comes down to this next high, it's 42%. Now, I'm not meaning to scare you. I'm just wanting to make sure you are prepared. Now, am I bullish on this market? Abso-freaking-lutely. I'm so bullish on this market in the larger midterm to macro. In the near term, with all of this economic data that's just been chopping this need for bullishness, because there's such an opportunity right now for those that are prepared to you're either holding into the next cycle, into this when we have this shakeout finished and we go, actually have that move all the way into those next, that parabolic trend everybody's waiting on. But because there's so much bullishness, I do think there's an incredible setup here. And I don't mean incredible good or bad. I mean a pretty large amount of volatility likely to come in. And I think it's going to happen in both directions. So if it does happen to the downside on Bitcoin, then these altcoins are going to be seeing, I see Solana back down here at $111. If this doesn't hold, then we're looking down here in the 80s and potentially down here in the mid 70s. Now, is that the end of the world or is that opportunity? Seth Shepard, he says, you are scaring me. You are scaring me, Kelly. Well, I apologize. I'm not meaning to scare you. And this is why, by the way, within that altcoin position portfolio that I've been sharing with you all, I'm not for minus some small moves because I'm trying to get access to another coin without putting other assets, more assets in. Most of this types of things I would be trading in my other portfolio, but this portfolio specifically I was showing you based on what was happening in the chart in February, where I thought we were in the cycle. If you were to take positions there, how does this play out? How do you stack into it over the course of this bull run from then taking into account volatility that could be here and showing you, yeah, we're down. Look, Avalanche is down 24%. And I'm not trading these. This is why they're down. I took a position that's going to be into, sometime next year, also for tax reasons. So you're not actively, for those that aren't actively trading. And so I'm riding through these and, I'm adding some positions as these are down. I added a little bit to Ondo, to Avalanche, a little bit to Ondo. I added a little bit to Stacks, a very small amount. I added a little bit to Near. I added, quite a bit to BitTensor because of where we're in the cycle. But I'm okay to endure some of these. Some of these are going to fail entirely. This isn't even all of them. But that was the purpose of this specific portfolio. But then remember, we have the other portfolios out there that are doing quite well. Looking here at what's going on. Are things down? But yeah, we're still up dramatically on a lot of stuff. Some stuff I got later is down. But it's like you can do what you want to do in this market depending on the time horizon that you have. If you stick with it and have conviction, right now is going to be Shakeout Central. But we have the global liquidity ticking up, so it should quell a little bit of your fears. If you are down on certain assets and you really like Ondo, or you really like Avalanche, or you really like Stacks, and it's like, okay, well, I got this. I was really into it back when I got it. It's down 30%. If you're figuring out where to allocate and you still believe in those projects and you've done your diligence and you believe in the fundamentals and you think they're in these various different assets, you have a lot of hope, then you can take advantage of these lower prices, lower your average entry, and therefore when price does start to rebound, you break even sooner. Now, again, remember, you have to trade and invest in a strategy that works for you. You have to trade and invest in a way that doesn't put your life at risk. You have to trade and invest in a way that you understand the different emotional triggers that may happen because only you are you. And what strategies and what mechanisms do you have in place to make sure that you can keep yourself in check? That's why strategies are important. I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's the best trader out there or the worst. Every single one of those people, and I'm not talking about machines and algorithms, but people that are trading, they're all subject to emotions and feeling hopeful and feeling fearful and looking at what's going on in the market and going, man, this is really dipping. I'm scared. But then you basically zoom out and you look at other data in the markets and you find entries on stuff that you really do appreciate in this market. Not only appreciate, but the data you understand and you see. When you look back at Bitcoin, for instance, pulling it up here in a second. When you look back at these periods in Bitcoin's history, this was ultimately the scariest time to buy. Ultimately, the scariest time to buy. Same thing right here with this economic shutdown. Same thing right here following the FTX collapse. But the people that have made the most money, I mean, think about the scariest time to buy. That would have been way back here in 2008 into 2010, 2011, because there was no real, this pure speculation, an incredible fear whether or not governments were even going to allow it or shut it down. And then you had the Mount Gox issue. Then you had, I mean, there's been so many issues along the way, and the risk matrix, the asymmetric opportunity has only become clear here. And what I mean by clear, for me, it was clear back here. Okay. But there's still dubious, borrowing Benjamin Callen's word, a dubious sort of, yeah, the principles are great. But now that the fact that we have, the FTX collapse, everything that happened, this pushing up, and now we're getting regulatory clarity with the Bitcoin spot ETFs, and we're seeing corporations, institutions, and big money starting to buy. Now it's starting, and Russia is starting to trade international settlement, international trade with Bitcoin. We got El Salvador also using this as basically a legal currency. All the dominoes are falling in favor of Bitcoin, but that does not mean anything for the 15-minute chart when we're looking at this like this. Macro bullishness, but we still have all this that we have to contend with. And when we look at Avalanche, I'm super bullish on Avalanche for this cycle. But, we've had this downtrend all the way back here since March, just like everything. Came down, found support, boo, 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 rejection, fell through, rejection. Oh, a little fake out up, fell through. A little fake out up. The question is, everybody's trying to figure out where the bottom is. And this is why it's most important for those that are looking for positions into this next bull cycle top, likely sometime next year. If you find opportunities to DCA, for those of us that are trading, this volatility is excellent because you can take advantage of it along the way, but we're not trading with our entire portfolio. So as we're looking at Avalanche, let's look at it. 4-hour chart. I mean, stair step down, fake out, stair step down, fake out. The question right here is, with Avalanche, are we going to hold this zone that we're kind of finding a little bit of a shelf on right here? We got a wick down. We got the momentum waves kind of starting to trigger up like this, but we're seeing neutral. It's like bearish, neutral, bullish. So effectively neutral here on the 4-hour. Let's look at it at the 3-day, get some broader context. 3-day, VWAP down, negative money flow, kind of conflicting signals on the RSI, which is purple, and the stochastics, which is orange. So let's go down to like the 12-hour. Look at this. Stochastics pushing up, starting to roll over. We're getting some bearish signals here, but I wouldn't just count on that. It's showing some weakness here. So let's pull up the indicators. Look at this. Fall, bearish signal. We get a bullish signal, but look, this bullish signal right here comes right into not even the weekly VWAP, gets rejected. Comes at, now it's tangled with the weekly VWAP under this trend signal line. It's trying its best to hold on to this, but if I had to guess, this will likely give us an opportunity down here in the low 19s for Avalanche. If this is able to hold, great, but it still needs to contend with breaking through this trend signal line and coming up and clearing all this chop here, and this sort of chop right here. See where this candle has a little bit of a hiccup. Everything's sort of waiting again on what's going on, the directionality of Bitcoin, which is also looking at that global finance context. Now, Cardano, remember I was talking, let's go on the daily chart. I was talking when this price action was pushing up in here, when this started showing weakness, we were talking about price action revisiting this box. We didn't want it to because it was bullish. And we have the hard fork that came up and they burned the Genesis keys. But what happened? Just like Bitcoin, most bullish news in the history of Bitcoin with those spot ETFs, the access points to Bitcoin and for corporations and big money in the traditional markets, we had a speculation pump into it and then the sell the news event. So what we got sell the news event, and now we're sitting right here back in this box. The price action wicked back down. Let's put my mouse over it. OHLC, the low. It's going to be the low of that candle. 32.34 cents. So currently it's a higher low, yes, but we still have negative money flow. We do see the stochastics on the daily kind of rounding out. We're seeing some bullish signals here. So you're saying there's a chance. Yes, but it's just a chance. If I had to guess, I do think that we're going to see lower prices on some of these altcoins. Now, what does that mean for Cardano? Well, we got this pretty large broadening wedge back here since April. So if we extend this out, that suggests that if we do lose this, I'm watching for, basically price point. Let's see. Yeah, I'm looking for a price point right in. It's going to be a little bit lower there. Boom. Somewhere, it's a pretty big box. Somewhere in here, if it's ultimately kind of just a retest of a low, but we do have the opportunity to be coming down here to the low 20 cents for Cardano. Does that bother you? Comment down below. Comment in the live chat. Let me know. Does that bother you if Cardano drops to 24 cents? Does that make the project dead? I still think Cardano has a great future. I think there's some, developmental hurdles in terms of the fact that it is more difficult to develop on, but that's also because this is still a developing, growing ecosystem. There's going to be people that come in and only develop on Cardano because of how decentralized it is. There's also going to be not, right? So, considering that we might have an opportunity to buy Cardano down here in the mid to low 20 cents, I'd still be bullish on that. There was something else I wanted to show. Solana. We talked about it, but we're watching these sort of zones. If this does come down into here, $100, $108, $111, if we lose that, then I'm looking at price coming probably down here. This is a spot I'd be looking at. This high, tied, entangled right here with this low. Boom. Do you think we'll get a $78 Solana? I think that would be phenomenal if we did. I might reallocate some stuff and pick some Solana up there, or just continue my DCA into my dry powder fund. Sometimes I'm not DCAing into the market. Sometimes I DCA, dollar cost average, into stable coins or into a savings account I'm using specifically for crypto. And then when the market hits a certain level, then you could start deploying over the course of, a week or a couple weeks, or how, depends on the stage in the market. In this case, if this dropped down here and we saw a big spill on Bitcoin and a big spill on other altcoins, I'd be looking for the setups and start deploying over the course of a few days because I already have that dry powder built up. But that's what I'm seeing, everybody. That's what I'm feeling. If you guys want to actually trade with us, we got a bunch of those lessons that are almost done getting edited that are going to start getting added to the Signals Lab. Make sure you sign up with us. It's a great way to learn crypto, but also make sure that you can see all the different signals that I'm looking at, that other professional traders are looking at, and getting involved. You can do that with this link right down below the video right here, Free Traders Group. Click on this link right here. I will post it in the live chat as well. If you're on Twitter, come over, subscribe to us here on YouTube as well. Get involved. And if not, if you want to just take it deeper, you're not really interested specifically in trading, but you want to know where to find entries, where to find exits, how to read on-chain data, how to manage psychology of trading, all of those things in our great Discord community, head over to lab.bitlabacademy.com/deal. We do this absolutely full-time. So this is why we also have built these communities to share this with all of you and make sure that you have the tools to succeed in this market. Now, with that being said, everybody, it is Thursday. Let's look at that data. Did we get it over 15? Where did it go? I just want to see, did it get over 15? We only got 10. So we're not doing the giveaway today, but I am sending one to Alexander G. So I'm going to connect with you offline for that. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. I hope you all have an absolutely phenomenal day. And with that, I bid you adieu. I hope you have a wonderful day. And we're going to head over to DGen Alpha now. We're going to go dive in with Taco. Everybody, I love you. That's all I got. Adios. Adios, muchachos. Thank you for coming.